Hey everybody, happy Friday. How are you feeling? Listen, all I can tell you is that whatever's happening in this world, there's always an opportunity to, look outside and see that the sun is shining and know that things are going to get better. And as you know, the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship during this time of uncertainty has been creating and providing these talks, these Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, CCE Global Industry Talks, to keep our creative sector entrepreneurs inspired, to keep you motivated in creating, because what we do know is that in some of the darkest times, some of the brightest lights shine forth. Some of the most creative works are produced. So with that, I come to you today with some really exciting things, a really phenomenal person. But before we do that, I just want to give you a couple of heads up. Next week, we will be joined by Martin Atkins. And for you who are logging in tomorrow to his talk, Art and Entertainment in Chaos, please log on to 2112 events page to find out, sign up for the Eventbrite, and be with him and join him tomorrow. So without further ado and going into any more detail, I am really excited today to have Hill Harper join us. And before he comes up, I just want to let you guys know that there are some individuals who, in our work, we are motivated not just by what we do in that work that we do, but what inspires us to create beyond that. What inspires us to be transformative, right? And so when I think of a person like that, Hill Harper has over 86 acting credits. I mean, he's just done so much, but he continues to do more in our community. And so with that, I want to bring him up.
Hey, Sadia.
Hey, Hill, how are you feeling over there?
Great, great, great. Great to be on. That was a great intro. You're doing awesome.
Well, thank you, Hill. I was like, oh, but your resume and your bio is so amazing. And, it's one of those things that normally I ask people to tell a little bit about their origin story. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I really do want to just share a couple of things. And I think more importantly, like a lot of people think of you regarding the work that they see, in terms of The Good Doctor right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so many other people know you for whether it was Concussion with, Will Smith, or something fun, Get on the Bus. I was trying to figure out, when did I first see you? What was the first film you did, Hill?
The first major film I did that was like, wide release was Get on the Bus with Spike Lee. I'm so blessed and fortunate that Spike gave me that opportunity. And it was a life-changing opportunity from the standpoint of not just the idea of being able to be in a major, studio feature film, in my career was kind of just starting off, but also the fact that I got to sit next to Ossie Davis for the entire shooting of that film, because our characters ended up sitting next to each other on the bus. And so every day during filming, I got to soak in stories about Godfrey Cambridge, about Malcolm X coming to his house, about his relationship with Ruby Dee, about being an artist and an activist, and being somebody who you think about yourself, they're not disparate. You're as artists and as creatives, we're part of the fabric of society, and it was just such a wonderful opportunity for me, and a launch pad for my career. So I owe a lot to Spike Lee, and I thank him for that. He put me in another movie right after that.
Oh, I'm going there. I was going there. I got my notes.
Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna forget that.
So Hill, here's the thing. Before we get to what you're working on, I wanted to bring this up because I thought about, I know that that's the first film that I saw you in, but I was like, what was it? Was it really Get on the Bus? And I actually reached out to Guinevere Smith yesterday. And he sends his best. I was going to surprise you and have him pop up.
He's incredible. He's one of the greatest actors in the history of acting. I'm not even talking about actors alive right now. I'm talking about in the history of acting, and character creation and character embodiment. Roger Guinevere Smith is at the top.
So he shares the same feelings towards you, and so he said we have to do it another time. He has a conflict today, but the next thing I was going to bring up, of course, is he got game in 1998. And the reason why I'm doing this, Hill, is because I was thinking about how, that young Hill then, it's like if he could see, or if you could advise him knowing what you know now. We'll get to that question later. So just think about that for a little bit, because that's kind of heavy, but I'm going to drop it on you later. So let's talk a little bit about what you're into right now, because, like I said in the intro, we're in the midst of uncertain times. It's hard, right? Because there's so many different crises that are popping up all over the place. But I wanted to talk to you and have you, I should say, talk to us a little bit about what you're working on right now, and I'll let you go with it.
Okay. So, there are all these, as you just said, Sadia, all these crises within this crisis. And there's a lot of suffering. There are so many issues, there's a lot of sadness. And I had been working before this for the past number of years in Flint, Michigan, doing a lot of work there. We were trying to specifically set up a fund. Many of you may or may not know, I went to law school, and my mother still, I think, is mad that I decided to become an actor and not be a lawyer. But the good thing is that I've been using my law degree in the past few years, and kind of quietly, we set up a social justice law firm to help fight, particularly for communities that are traditionally and historically underrepresented in terms of mass tort or class action in these types of lawsuits. And what we've tried to do is help to set up a victims fund for Flint, much like the 9/11 victims fund that was set up for the first responders, because it's very hard to identify the type of long-term damage that lead and the effects of lead will have on the children that were exposed there over this time. And folks should know that the problem is still not solved. Let's be very clear. And so in that, I got to meet a lot of people there. When this crisis happened, a lot of reach outs, whether it were DMs on my Instagram or people hitting me on Twitter, or emails or texts from folks saying, Hill, there's a crisis happening. There's a water desert here. We can't use our water. We still don't trust it. It's still not good. It burns my daughter's face, yada, yada, yada. But then there's no water. We don't have it. And so, when things like this come up, I think one of the best things that anybody can do, and certainly it helps your soul and helps your spirit, is to just try to figure out a way to serve. So we, along with the National Clean Water Collective, which is a wonderful grassroots clean water organization, nonprofit, we set up a GoFundMe page to get fresh, clean water to Flint. I'm paying for all the administrative costs, the transportation costs, and all of that. And every dollar goes to actually getting water into somebody's hands. And so we first set the goal of 24,000, because that would provide, somewhere over 10,000 gallons. Then we raised the goal. We blasted through that. Ian Van Zandt and her folks helped a lot, her warriors. And then we raised it to 50,000, and we're through that goal now. And so we're actually going to create even more sustainable options moving forward for folks, with some interesting companies that pull fresh water out of the moisture in the air and some other things. And so there's exciting things going on around innovation and sustainability, and providing fresh, clean water alternatives for folks in Flint, Michigan. And hopefully these will be some things that we can replicate in other communities, because rest assured, Flint is just the precursor.
Right.
There are lead issues in Newark right now. We know that every community that hasn't had a major infrastructure rebuild for their pipe systems, Memphis, Newark, places in Baltimore, there are East LA, there are issues coming. So we hope to do work like this around the country and serve really underserved communities. And any help that anybody can offer around this from your crew is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, one of the things that I feel, is so powerful, and you guys, the GoFundMe website, please log on. It's right there for you to see, is that the work that you do is transformative, right? The work that you do on camera, I would argue that you've chosen really smart roles that shine a light on transformative human beings. Actually, I didn't think about that till just now. But the reality is that as an individual and as a person, you continue to do this transformative work that impacts not just people, but like generationally, like people's lives. The fact that once water, mind you, the last I checked the GoFundMe, it had doubled, right? So people are giving and we continue to need you to give, but you're actually making transformative changes that will impact people over generations. I do believe that. And so that's really impactful. I'm curious about what keeps you motivated in doing that though. Like, I mean, like just as a person getting up, so many people are having a hard time just being motivated because of the darkness that I spoke about earlier. How do you find the light to move forward every day?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And for me, it's attempting to pull from all the different resources of light and energy that are out there. And fundamentally, it starts with the arts. You know, I believe that the arts and the arts community is the place where light and energy is created, creativity emanates from. And the goal for me is impact and legacy all the time, impact and legacy. And they have to be in concert. In other words, I believe you can have real positive impact on something, but if there's no legacy, there's no sustainability, and it really didn't make a long-term change or shift or difference. You can also have legacy in a not so great way. You can have really unintended sustainable consequences on communities, you know, whether it's displacement or so-called gentrification, or all these different things that can happen in some of the work you do, or, you know, with kids, all these things. And so really having smart, innovative impact, positive impact and legacy are kind of the two keys and goals. And then it goes back to energy and attitude. And why are we here? Asking the question, what is today? What can I do today to actually make the world a little bit better? From the context of being products of 15 billion years of God-created evolution, we're here, right? Yeah. And we're barely here. If we're here for 100 years, that's a long life, but that's nothing. It's a snap. What can we do in this moment, and how can we use the energy that we've been given and gifted to actually create positive impact and legacy?
Well, I say that that's literally one of the things that keeps me going. So I appreciate you articulating that, because it is like, as individuals, and one of the things that makes this role with the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship so not only valuable, but it motivates me, is to be able to provide resources like even just this conversation with you. And speaking of which, there are some hard copy resources that we can show. I want to put up a couple of your books that you've written, because, you know, as not only an actor, you're a celebrated author, you know, you have, as you mentioned, a JD, wonderfully, a great legacy and pedigree, as some people call it, in terms of education. But just because you have those things doesn't always mean that you're going to execute and, you know, do transformative work. So let's take a quick look at some of your books here.
Oh yeah, that one's good. Ooh, hoo, hoo. Letters to a Young Brother, Manifest Your Destiny. That was the first book I wrote. It's actually, I joke, it's the thing I've done in my career across discipline. The thing I've done in my life, besides attempting to raise my son right now and attempting to be a good dad and failing every day at that attempt, but failing valiantly, it's the thing I'm most proud of. That book, that book right there. Every day I'll get an email or DM or something from somebody that says, "Man, that book, this part of the book changed my life," or this. It's the thing that I'm most proud of, for sure.
Nice. And then we're going to talk about the brothers. Let's bring up the sisters.
Letters to Young Sisters, Define Your Destiny. That's a hug on paper. 2/3 of our young women are being raised by single moms. They don't have that platonic older male relationship with a male that they may or may not have, that's not asking anything of them. And the goal of this was to remind these young women how beautiful they are, how magnificent. The first acronym that comes up is that define is that you are fine, which stands for fantastic, interesting, necessary, and exceptional. And I try to get the young women to say that to themselves in the mirror every day. Say, you're fantastic, you're interesting, you're necessary, and you're exceptional. It's so true. Our young women are fine. They are all those things, and they need to hear that from a man who's not expecting anything of them but just to love on them. And that's that.
Woo! That sounds so good. Woo! Okay. And then I need that book. And then I have this one, but let's put it up for everybody else to see. Now, this is really brilliant because, you know, for the conversation that we're talking about today, this literally is a guidebook on how to not only find a blueprint for your life. I'll let you talk on it, Hill.
Well, it's the best book with the worst title. I mistitled that book. I really screwed up. It still was a New York Times bestseller, but I think it would have been the by far the biggest book I ever wrote. And far away if I would have titled it correctly. I got too smart for my own good and I got in my way. There, the title's all wrong. I wish I could republish it, the exact same book under a completely different title.
Okay, so if you can, could you share what you think you'd want it to be? I mean, I'm just curious. Or no?
It would be something like super wealth.
Oh.
Or hyper wealth. Or something like that, you know, something people didn't understand the wealth cure. People would always say to me, "Man, I don't got no wealth to be cured, dude. I ain't got no wealth to be cured. This book ain't for me."
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, I messed up the title.
Okay, so now we all know. Look, this is definitely a blueprint for you to be able
to build a truly wealthy life. And the whole idea of that title was redefining what wealth is. Right. And it was curing the definition. People associate wealth with money.
Right.
And that's what being wealthy is. But clearly, if anything, this pandemic is a great example that without your health, and so I break down wealth factors, and health is by far and away the number one health factor. Because it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. I mean, just look at what Steve Jobs said before he died. He said, I would give away the iPhone, I'd give away the Mac, I'd give away the company, the Pixar, every movie if I could just see my daughter graduate high school. What your health is your main wealth factor. And then there are other wealth factors that are important in building a life that support many of the things to build this complete life. And so curing the definition that most of us have inherited about what wealth is the first step to building a blueprint that truly reflects the type of life that you want to live, a truly wealthy life.
Yeah.
It's not tied necessarily to money, but money's still an important part. So that's why money's a big piece of the book.
Yeah, I know it's absolutely brilliant. And I was so happy to give it to my mother. And for those mothers out there, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's definitely a great piece to share with family as we celebrate our mothers, right? So, yeah, I really wanted to really shine a light on the works that are out there, because it's not just, you know, every now and then, you know, you're really good about showing up. You know, in terms of people asking you to speak. I've seen you on several talks this week, which is really great. But when you're not available and when you're working, right, when you're spending time with family, those of us can still, you know, read and get some insight and some wisdom. So thank you so much for putting some physical text out there in the world. So all that. There's one other thing. Oh, so before we bring on our friend,
yeah.
I want you, if you could give 3 tips, Hill. Oh, 2 things before we bring on anyone else here. 3 tips that you would offer a creative entrepreneur. And that could be someone in filmmaking. I would argue to say it could be in the visual arts, which I want to touch on next, or as an investor, philanthropist.
Yeah. The 3 tips I would go to is remember that everything or anything that we do is in service of other people. And if we remember that, and that fundamentally people want what I'm about to say. They want to be seen, heard, and know that they matter. And if you you base your decisions through that filter about whatever you create or whether you're ideating or innovating, you're a step ahead. The other thing I would say is that given where we are right now, the world is shifting, and we knew the world was changing quickly because of technology and technological innovation and all of that. But,
Nothing. Keep talking. Sorry.
But what we didn't necessarily expect was this pandemic right at this moment. I think some people predicted there'd be a pandemic, etc. But let's ask ourselves the question: what are the things that are going to make the world better? What are the things people are going to need? The people that need to be seen, heard, and made sure they matter coming out of this. And what are some of the things that we can create, whether it's on the entertainment side or whether it's on the innovation side, entrepreneurship side, that can service that and those people. And then the last and probably the most important question is just what makes your heart beat faster? You don't have to overthink this. If hearing about a young Black man being killed on the street by police makes your heart beat faster, then follow that. What does that mean? Use your talents and skills to follow that. I don't know where that leads you, but follow that. If hearing about people being poisoned with water makes your heart beat faster, then follow that. If hearing about someone that creates a cool app that has people just going wild and having fun and doing like house party at night, then follow that and create it. Don't judge the heart, right? Don't judge it, just follow it. And then ideate around it and innovate around it. And so too much, I believe, we overjudge our intuition and we stop ourselves because of fears and we overthink it. And we get a little off track, and then we look back and say, you know what, I should have, I wish I could have, and I could have, but I didn't, and I wish,
Yeah.
This isn't the time to have those types of conversations.
Well, you know, I have to say, Hill, speaking on that, my heart is jumping right now because we have a surprise guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hill Harper.
Surprise guest.
Can you see him?
Oh, Roger Gregory Smith. I already talked about you. I thought you were busy. They said you couldn't come on. I said, oh my God.
See.
What's happening, brother? See your
What's
face.
happening, brother?
How you doing, man?
I'm just trying to jog while Black, you know?
Man, we're all trying to figure out how to do that. And
hey, Hill.
Yeah.
We've put in a couple of miles together. In fact, I remember you and I.
I'm on TV.
I remember.
Wait, what?
Okay,
hey!
That's the next generation coming in.
What's your name?
Yeah. Who are you?
Are you going to introduce yourself to the audience?
I'm a goose.
I'm
Sai. I'm Goose.
Sai, Zali.
Sai, Zali. Hey,
Zora's around here somewhere.
Hey, Sai, Zali. I played,
there she is.
played some characters with your dad.
Hey, we were just talking about, Hill, you and I, we were running. I think when we were out on set for Get on the Bus, and a couple of our rituals, you and I would go running together, putting in those miles out on roads. We didn't even know the roads. Bro.
No.
And, you know, to see Maud, you know, going down the way that he went down. Yeah, it's disturbing, but it's not surprising.
Not at all.
And we saw 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue try to backtrack and say that maybe we didn't see something that went down off camera, because he always has to appeal to his constituency.
Yeah.
In the same way, you know, at his rallies and his campaign, when he would say, throw them out, no coats, no coats, no coats. And back in the day, we used to know how to deal with them. Yeah. You know, this week is the 50th commemoration of the Kent State Massacre. It's also the 50th year commemoration of the Jackson State Massacre. And that was in 1970. And the gentleman whose name I will not mention was a full-grown adult at that time. And I'm wondering what his reaction was in 1970. where was his perspective, and why has he not chosen to acknowledge what the entire world is acknowledging? The massacre at Kent State, 4 students there, 2 students at Jackson State, just a week later.
Right.
I don't know where you are in this conversation right now, Hill, but here's where I am in this conversation. We're doing homeschooling, and the homeschooling is including a lot more than just writing and reading and arithmetic. We're talking about a couple of issues here that are important to the past, but also to the present moment and to the future. And you can hear the future screaming in the background, which is why I thought I might not be able to be with you. But I said, well, let me jump in here.
Well, my future, he's up there taking a nap right now. And,
Yeah.
And I was saying at the beginning of this that I fail every day trying to be a dad. I definitely need some advice, because you bring up something, a question that I really have been struggling with, and just being real transparent with anybody out there that's either a dad already or considering being a dad of a young Black boy, is at 4 years old, how much of this do I want to offer him? And how, and I'm not talking about Brother Ahmad, I'm even talking about the books. You know, he caught me the other day. There was, you guys will laugh at this. You know, he asked me what Jesus looked like, you know, and so I showed him what
Interesting.
I believe Jesus looked like, you know, hair of wool and skin that looks like mine. I said, he looks like me and you. And then, there was a children's Bible, and, you know, and then even things about MLK and Black, and if you're Black, you're not treated right, or book about Jackie Robinson. How much of that do we want the young mind to have about even the subconscious idea that, yes, Jackie Robinson and Dr. King overcame these things, but at the same time, the subconscious messaging is still about your other. In other words, you have to overcome something rather than just being who you are is already fine. And yes, and then dealing with being a young Black boy or Black man in the society. I would love to hear from you offline how you've navigated that, because your kids are older than mine, and clearly
we can talk about it right now. I have kids who are your same age and who are younger still, and also who are older. I have 4 children.
He does.
One of whom is an adult. And Holy Thursday, I was with my 8-year-old son, and we were talking about the Last Supper. And he said, "Yeah, I want to see a picture of that. Let's Google that." And he insisted that we look at an image of the Last Supper that included Black folks, including a Black Jesus, because he wasn't buying the other thing. So this is a young man whose curiosity and whose sense of something he has been inculcated with, but he's had that opportunity, you know, because he's been exposed to it. But I never told him, you know, Jesus was Black. I never told him that. That's something that he came to his own conclusion about, and his own insistence. You know, when we were looking at images of Holy Thursday evening, and Jesus gathered with his 12 disciples.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm dominating the conversation. We gotta step off.
We are so.
Because I got monologues.
Exactly, incredible monologue. So what we'll do is we will schedule another talk for us. I'm so glad though that you jumped in, because, you know, the legacy, and we were talking about legacy, and I had asked Phil about, you know, referring back to the first feature that he did when he showed up on camera, and it was the first time I saw him, right? And all of the work that he's done thus far. So the fact that you are fathers, and the fact that you are able to create not only legacy, but creating new narratives. I think that that's now part of the innovation that we want to continue to explore. So I'm so glad, Roger, you jumped on. And
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
it is such
And Hill, keep up the good work, bro.
Thank you, brother. Great
All the
seeing you.
best.
Thank you.
All the best to young Pierce.
Yes, Pierce. Pierce.
Oh,
Don't wake him up. Don't wake him up. All right.
Thank you, brother.
Take care,
thank
y'all.
you to the best. Thank
Peace.
you, Roger. Peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
Peace.
Oh, see, you surprised me anyway.
Well, now I'm surprised. You know, Hill, it's you know, it's really beautiful because even though I try to, you know, respect the fact that this is, you know, a nonprofit, and, you know, we try not to talk about, you know, religion and politics, it is of the day. Okay. It is of the subject. I had a really hard time this morning knowing that I was going to be talking to you, who is an activist, who gets out there in the world, and trying to figure out how to unload some of the heaviness that I woke up with, because it's, may I say, it is Ahmaud Arbery's birthday, right? So I celebrated his life, and I celebrated his family being able to potentially receive what may seem like a gift on this day. But I also wanted to just really celebrate you and the work that you're doing with regards to how we, others, can be transformative even in these darkest of times. And as you,
Johnny, let me say real quick, it reverts back to the question you asked me about motivation,
yeah,
and Roger hit on it very well. Any of us could easily be Ahmaud Arbery. In other words, you know, Roger and I could have been that. You know, when we get on the bus, we were driving through parts of what I've come to learn now, because I've been back to those certain places where the KKK started, right? So we could have gone down the wrong road in the wrong place in the wrong time.
right.
I was having a speech in Alabama once, and I was driving by myself in a rental car from Atlanta on my way to where the current, you know, the beautiful memorial that Brian Stevenson has erected in Montgomery.
Yeah.
That has names of all of these lynchings.
Right.
And a cop stopped me on my way to Montgomery, pulled me over on the highway. It was like 6 a.m. There was no one else there. And he said, "I want you to get in my car." Right. And things could have gone down right there, and I wouldn't be here on this conversation.
Wow.
We've all been stopped multiple times by police as Black males over the course of our life, multiple times. And there's multiple times things could have gone completely a different direction.
Yeah.
So motivation for what we have, I believe, at least for me, and I know it's true for Roger as well, is we could just as well not be here. We could be in prison, we could be dead, we could be whatever. So we might as well, if we've been granted the blessing to actually be able to create,
Yeah.
let's go. Don't waste the blessing.
Right.
Let's work together too, because we can't get there on our own.
That's right.
We can't get there in silos. We have to share. We have to work together. We have to uplift each other. And the reason why I say yes to people is because that's the answer you're supposed to say. It's not, you're not supposed to say no. No is supposed to happen when you can't do it. But if you can, you should. And I try to support anybody and everybody who are doing good works, because they deserve it. And who am I not to support you? So
Okay, between Roger and you right now, I'm gonna start crying. I'm not.
And
But
you got the master wordsmith virtuoso J Ivy coming. So you know,
I'm telling you,
we have to bow down to him. You know,
right? But I tell you, like, we were joking yesterday. I actually saw Roger in his live performance of Huey P. Newton in the Bay Area. And he was like, you know, that was a long time ago. And to this day, it still impacts me. And I'm so happy that he showed up, and he showed up in this moment for us. And I made sure he had the link just in case, because I knew he was busy. So I'm really grateful that he showed up, and what he said was absolutely powerful and right on time. But what also made me think about is that we also have an opportunity to innovate around shifting the narrative, right? Whether it's through filmmaking, whether it's through making sure that as community members, we band together to make sure we have what we need, you know, and we engage our friends of all cultures so that it's never just us making that heavy lift. It should be all of us making that heavy lift, right? And I think that that's...
All of us are lifting the lift. It's not that heavy. I mean, that's the point. It's
Well,
like,
say again, Hill?
if all of us are lifting, the lift is not that heavy.
That's right.
And that's the thing. If you're right, if one person's lifting, it's too heavy. It's too heavy. But if all of us are lifting together,
Yes.
it's not. We got to lead. We lead with that togetherness. We lead with love.
Yes.
We lead with the spirit of cooperation, conciliation. We lead with, I mean, you know, Dr. King and Gandhi and all them, they already said it all. We don't need to re-say it,
Right.
but we just need to do it.
Just do it, literally. Like, that is the other thing, just to do it. So before Jay joins us, real quick, it's a secret. There's some kind of secret art thing going on you're working on in Detroit?
Yeah, I'm working on something in Detroit that is, it's a passion project. We are in a zenith moment in a window of time where we have genius artists creating the best art in the world right now. Yet, if you ask a young brother or sister who these artists are, you know, like Amy Sherrill or Kehinde Wiley or Hank Willis Thomas or Sanford Biggers or Micheline Thomas or Ebony Patterson or Nick Cave or Theaster Gates or Kerry James Marshall, all, you know, you ask most of them, they don't have no idea who they are, right? But these people are creating some of the greatest work they can create that can change minds and lives. And it's been co-opted in many ways, ending up in a lot of rich people's warehouses and boxes to be resold at auction. And so we need institutions where young brothers and sisters can see this work. And I got a secret project that I'm working on. I'm bringing it on the world next year in 2021. And it's gonna be something that's again about hopefully that impact and legacy stuff. Anybody who's interested in art and visual art and wants to join me on that journey, DM me, reach out to me. If I can't respond to all my DMs. There's a lot come through. Mm-hmm. I try to see them all. So if I don't hit you back, DM me again, and eventually I'll see it. So yeah, I'm working on something, and it's pretty special. So if art is your passion, if that's what makes your heart beat faster, then I got something for you.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye peeled. I'm excited for it. And on that note, let's, J Ivy, an author, poet. Oh, let's just real quick.
Genius. And that's the thing about our community. You know, we have to start normalizing the word genius because we have so many geniuses in our community like J Ivy. Normalizing that word is a part of what we need to do because we let people talk about genius for us in sports and all these other things, but in all these arenas, J Ivy is a genius and he deserves to be referred to as such. And there's so many other people that need to, because it's normal in our community that we don't even see ourselves that way.
Yes. And on to that note, bring the genius.
Come on, Hill. Come on, man. You already made Sadia cry. Now you got me over here.
Wait, isn't there a poem? Wait, what is it, Jay? Something cry, moon cry?
Moon cry. We made the moon cry. Yeah. Man, thank you so much for those words. That means so much. Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm excited. Just sit back and do some listening, man. God bless. Sadia, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're not done just yet. Hang tight.
I was gonna sit off on the side and just listen.
But we can take you down and we can let but we want to, I wanted you and Jay to talk and chat a little bit.
Okay.
Jay's got a book called Dear Father, and I just wanted to, let me just say this. Thank you, J Ivy, for joining us. Jay has been such a good resource of words, of inspiration, as the Grammy President of the Midwest chapter, and also an advisor to the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. I wanted to be able to have you join us, talk a little bit to Hill. You introduced me to Hill. It was the film 1982.
Yeah.
Right?
Love that film too. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to invite you on for you guys to catch up for a little bit. I'll drop myself down.
So hey, Jay, talk about the book, and obviously books are near and dear to my heart because, as Sadia said earlier, they go. What I love about books is that you're hitting people in their most intimate moment. You know, when they're most focused. Like, you know, if you do a TV show, you do something, people can be on the phone, on Instagram watching, and they could be hanging out with somebody else. But usually books, you do those as a solo activity by yourself, and you actually have to focus on the book to read it. You know, to tell us about the book. I'd love to know more.
Yeah. So the book is called Dear Father, Breaking the Cycle of Pain. And it was sparked from a poem I wrote. The poem was written in a space and time where I was really just hurting. I lost my father. Before losing him, he was in my life when I was younger. 10 plus years went by without me seeing or hear from him after my folks had divorced when I was younger. And, you know, I was just carrying that pain and that hurt. And we reconnected, but a year and a half after we reconnected, he passed away. So I was going through this roller coaster of emotions. And at this point, I'd been doing poetry for some years. So it was natural for me to lean on poetry for that creative outlet, along with forgiveness, because ultimately that's what the poem and the book and the story is about. It's about the power of forgiveness. So I sat down one day and I just wanted to release myself of this burden, this heaviness, the anger, the depression, the sadness. I was just tired of it. I was tired of the heaviness. And I wrote this poem, and immediately I could feel that weight just lift up off of me. And it was just this phenomenal feeling. I felt like I could do anything after that. So again, this was, you know, shortly after not shortly, but it was after my pops had passed. But I felt like our relationship got tighter once I was able to come to grips with forgiveness and seeing who he was just as a person and as a spiritual being and as my father, as you know, the man I loved who helped bring me into this world. And I decided to start to share that poem, which led to a lot of conversations, which led to a lot of healing, a lot of dialogue. So when it came time to write a book, it just made sense to focus on that poem and that story and the power of forgiveness and the healing that came from it.
Why do you think that it is so hard for us as men to sort of deal with a lot of the internal pain, seek help? You know, I saw a post from a sister the other day that was like, you know, she was talking about how women, in this case, she was talking about Black women in particular, do all this work on themselves. And right. she was depressed and disappointed because what she ended up saying was really very, you know, tender. And whether it's actual factual true or not, I'm just going to say this is what her perspective was that she does all this work on herself and dealing with pain and dealing with hurt, rejection, having circles of other women to do the same, only to end up dating somebody who has never done work. So she feels like then she not only is a girlfriend or a wife, but she's also a therapist. And she's like, how come I can't find somebody who's done the work also on themselves and done the healing work? And obviously, many of us, even just talking about Ahmaud Arbery as an example, or Trayvon or whoever, Sean, you know, there are a lot of all sorts of walls we can talk about that, of protection that we create and armor that we put on in many ways. How were you able to break through that? And was it just through the function of the pen and the paper, and for folks who aren't poets, what are some things that those of us that aren't poets can do to sort of break through some of the pain cycles?
Yeah, well, I have a quote. It says, if you don't deal with your emotions, one day your emotions are going to deal with you. And I feel that since we were brought into this world, especially as men, young Black men, young Black boys, we're taught that, you put on that macho manhood. We don't cry. We don't show emotions. We're just taught to never show feelings. You're soft if you do that. Even when I started doing poetry, and which is a very an art that's centered around vulnerability and exposing your soul and exposing your feelings. I was always approached about, from cats talking about, what are you doing? Oh, you're a punk, you soft, you doing this, you doing poetry. It was always this misconception that sharing your feelings was not the thing to do. And like you said, like when you first started, I was thinking, there are these layers that we built up, but you're right, they're walls, they're armor, there are these ironclads, these layers of ironclad fortresses that we've put ourselves in, and don't dare try looking in or getting inside of our hearts and our souls. That's just how we built. But on the flip side, I had an incredible teacher in high school. Her name was Ms. Argue. What I learned is you're not gonna argue with somebody named Ms. Argue. And she had us write a poem for homework. And the next day I bring my poem to class, expecting to turn it in. She makes everybody read their poem in front of the class. She pulls me to the side after the class, gives me an A on it. Later, she makes me do a show. My first time ever doing a show, ever being on stage in front of a group of people. I got a standing ovation, and immediately my life changed. So I started to explore this idea of expression and using my voice and getting my feelings out. And the more that I explored that lane, the more I learned about myself. The more I explored my feelings and my emotions, and the more I found strength in that. So every time I would get on the stage, every time I would share a poem, I found that there was a lot of strength in that vulnerability that we're all taught to run away from. And through poetry or through my journey, I've always wanted to share that. That's a big part of Dear Father, just sharing the idea of there's a lot of strength that you're missing out on in vulnerability. There's nothing wrong with opening yourself up, with talking with someone. And if you're not comfortable with talking with someone, if you feel like you're not skilled at being a writer, just do your best at getting your feelings out. I always tell people, just have a conversation with yourself. Put it on paper. And I go back to that example. When I wrote Dear Father, I wrote it without expectation. I was just writing it to I guess get these feelings off my chest. And afterwards, I felt that I could breathe. I felt that pressure, lift off of my chest. So that's what I always want to share with people. Like, there's nothing wrong with diving into your emotions, with exploring your feelings. There's a lot of strength in it, and I feel like we will find more healing if more people were able to come to that. We'd be able to rebuild the village bit by bit if we were able to get to that point.
Yeah, brother Jason Wilson in Detroit wrote a beautiful book called Cry Like a Man. He runs a martial arts academy in Detroit that's saving young brothers and young men. And even when I wrote Letters to a Young Brother, the letters I was writing to the young brother were letters that I wish someone would have written me. So I was kind of like writing to myself. And so if you don't want to write to yourself, now write to your younger self, because in many ways your younger self is the one that needs to heal.
Right.
He's still inside you. He's the one that, that got hurt.
Absolutely.
So he's still there. So that's great, man. I know that you're gonna bless us with some poetry. And I know there's not a lot of time left. Saudia is right there. She's sliding back in.
Yeah, she's sliding on the slide.
This is the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. They got the best technology,
Absolutely.
And going and this. But I'll slide out and let you bless us, and just thank you, man. So much respect. Thank you for representing and being who you are and what you do, And Sadia, this has been great. Thank you. It wouldn't happen without you. So thank you. And everybody part of the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. Keep creating, keep ideating, and don't let fear stop you. Go. You know, we need you to create. We need you. It's an imperative right now. We need you to ideate. We need you to innovate. We need you to be an entrepreneur and create jobs and create opportunities. We need it right now. So please do that. Please.
Yeah. You heard him, Hill Harper, put that request in to everybody. That not only do we need you, it's so cool that, Jay, you said art without expectation, creating art without expectation. And I think it has come up a couple of times before you jump, Hill, just that if we imagine at some point in the day or the weekend, that self, that younger self of us, right? Reflect on what we know now, what we would have told that younger self. And maybe that will help inform us on that vulnerable space. And potentially, who knows, you know, what can come of your creative spirit. I always say, since this whole pandemic and uncertain time, that it's almost like taking a moment to just rest a little bit, just to get quiet, whether that's meditation, whether it's, I'm going to say it, going for a run, whether it's, you know, just sitting in nature, taking that moment to hear yourself, because so many of us for so long have been so busy. It's almost like we're running away from that quiet, still voice, because in that quiet space is where inspiration comes. So then we reimagine, take a moment to reflect and reimagine, and then remix it, right? Because we take a little of that old, we put it together with a little bit of the new and what we're going through right now. And I think that ultimately something magical can spring from it. So, you know, today's topic was creating during a crisis. And Hill, I appreciate, much like so many people in the world, and I can say world, but definitely nationally in some of our hardest hit, most underserved communities, there are people who are thanking you. So I thank them for you today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, J Ivy, for making time. You are one busy individual. Can you just, tell us a little bit of, because you're doing some things, and I want you to talk about what you've been creating while we have this time here. Like, you're doing some things. You're talking to some people. You're talking to some people.
Yeah. So I started the show every Wednesday. Right now, platforms on IG Live, Instagram Live. The show is called The Word, Poetry and Conversation. Last week we had Estelle, got Dion Cole coming up next week. We've had Cootie Simmons on the show, Jessica Care Moore on the show, The Last Poets on the show, Chris Robb and Maurice Brown. So that's been something that a podcast I've been wanting to do for years. I figured this would be a great time to start, and it's been incredible. Something I really, really look forward to every week. Outside of that, I've been writing new poetry, recording, filming. Got a lot of requests for a lot of different movements that's happening right now. So my job as a poet is to lend my voice to causes that will allow us to uplift our community. And I'm doing that as much as possible. And working on music as well, working on music with Tari Teray, and just keeping things moving. Like you said, using the time to breathe, and through that meditation, finding the creativity that will hopefully just make somebody's day a little bit better. You know, that's the ultimate goal.
So with all of that, I really think, Hill, you said that it requires everyone to join together and help lift, right? And I'm always trying to find how to encourage, and artists I think are the best in terms of being able to lend a voice, take a risk, step outside of your comfort zone. I really want to encourage individuals cross-culturally. It doesn't matter what race you are, what sex you are, what your religious or your love affiliation is. Just step outside of your comfort zone, start having conversations, start making works, right? Some visual artworks that could end up potentially in this secret space in Detroit, because right now we need everybody to take hold and be able to uplift. So who's this? Miss Davis. Oh, Sage. Hi. Every now and then people will put up a link and they'll say something to us. We want to acknowledge Sage Page. Thank you so much. So thank you, gents, for being the brilliant men that you are, and for doing the work that you do, and taking just a bit of time to encourage and inspire some other creative artists who will not only see this live, but will rebroadcast and see it on our Instagram page and on our Facebook page. Anything else you guys want to shout out before we sign off?
No, thank you. People, stay blessed out there, y'all. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. Man, my grandfather used to say that all the time. Keep on keeping on. Take it one day at a time. Everything gonna be all right. So yeah, I echo that to the fullest.
Yes, thank you, Sharon King. I'm glad you're watching us. Yeah, let's put some powerful projects together. You know, that's what we do. Thank you so much. Enjoy this day. If you know a woman or a mother, happy Mother's Day to you. Yeah. We're all here because of a mother.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Peace. Hang on tight, guys.
Thank you. Peace.
Okay.